Hello, this is Miller from We Market and Cooking with Miller. We're making two fudges today, the double chocolate fudge and a vegan toasted coconut fudge. And these are the end products. They're made in a quarter sheet pan and they'll need to cool overnight. They're about 3.5 pounds each. So what you'll be making is about 3.5 pounds of fudge. Typically, I believe that when you go to a fudge shop, fudge is around $15 a pound. So you're talking about 15 times 3 would be $50 worth of fudge. Didn't cost me that much to make this ingredients. It was probably about a third that much. So for $15, you can make yourself a nice pile of fudge. Hello, this is Miller Rogers again with Cooking with Miller, and today we're going to make fudges. Two different fudges. One is double chocolate fudge and the other one is a vegan toasted coconut fudge. What you want to do, traditional fudge is made by boiling milk and sugar together and then adding cocoa or chocolate and mixing them up together, holding them at a certain temperature, and I don't remember what it was, and then letting it cool down and pouring it out onto a stone surface where you then scrape and fold and scrape and fold until it reaches the consistency of fudge, and then you drop it into your pans and you're done. It's a very inexpensive way of doing it, but you have to heat up the milk and sugar, which can be problematic. And for small batches of fudge, it's easier to use sweetened condensed milk because they've already done the heating of the milk and the sugar. So the triple or the double chocolate fudge is sweetened condensed milk warmed up to about 100 degrees. That's enough to melt the chocolates. And then we put in the chocolate and stir it around. Once it is melted to the point where we like it, then we'll pour it into our pan. And this time we're using our aluminum quarter sheet pans with a riser. We're not putting parchment paper on the bottom. I think you could use wax paper, but when I've used parchment paper after it all cools, it's very difficult to get the parchment paper off the fudge. So the first thing we do is getting a pot of water. This is a cheap Bain Marie, which is just my soup pot with a bowl. So I put water in here and it's starting to simmer, and I put my bowl on top, and then I'll open up my sweetened condensed milk. This is the time when you want to have a good spatula to use, because sweetened condensed milk is, if you remember, is thick and it's kind of gooey and it's hard to move around. That's why I like these spatulas so much. Oh, you see that? So we're putting our sweetened condensed milk in the pan. Don't cut yourself on the lid. I've done that already. Not today, but other times. to scrape all that out because you need every bit of it. There's the 2 cans of sweetened condensed milk. We're going to use a bar of unsweetened chocolate and these chocolate discs. These are the chocolate discs we sell at the co-op. These are what professional chocolatiers use. It's a high quality product, not much more expensive, or maybe about the same as a chocolate chip. But they melt nice, they make great, you can turn it into chocolate bars and stuff like that. We're not going to do chocolate bars. We're just going to do fudge, which is a little bit more undemanding. Now the trick to doing fudge is that you want it to chill down and then hold its shape. In the past, I have had a hard time holding its shape. As soon as it would warm up a little bit, it would start to move and what do you call it? Start to melt, I guess. Now, when I was reading up recipes on fudge, I found a recipe from Cook's Illustrated, and they talked about adding soda to your mixture. They said that adding a little bit of soda changes the pH and makes the end product more like fudge than without it. So I've been using soda all the time now. They also suggested adding a little salt, and we'll do that too. The soda you don't want to add too much to. You're just changing the pH, and according to my recipe, it's 1/4 teaspoon of soda and 1/8 teaspoon of salt for one of these trays. So as soon as this sweetened condensed milk gets up to about 100 degrees, we're going to dump the chocolate in there. So what makes this double chocolate fudge is that we're going to be putting chocolate chips, and you'll see me sprinkle them on the top and kind of press them into the mixture. In a few seconds, this sweetened condensed milk will be a nice temperature. I find this works the best when I've been making fudge, is to get the sweetened condensed milk up to temperature first, a warm temperature, and then add your chocolate chips. They'll melt nicely, and it just increases the, what do you call it? Just makes it simpler. You can make all different kinds of fudge. I've made toasted almond fudge, cranberry fudge. This is going to be double chocolate fudge. I've made toasted pecan, toasted walnut. Once you get used to making fudge, the sky's the limit. You could do a pineapple fudge, a papaya fudge. I'm getting hungry now. Okay, let's put the chocolate in. 1 chocolate bar broken up. And 2 pounds of these discs. I knew I got a little bit more than 2 pounds, so I'm not going to put them all in. And then we'll stir it up here, and you can already see that it's slightly melting. You want to add that soda in now. 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. And 1/8 teaspoon of salt. Now the other thing that we're going to make is toasted vegan toasted coconut vegan fudge. And with that, we need some toasted coconut, so this is the time to start that. So I put some coconut in a pan with the parchment this time, and then in the convection oven. It'll take about 4 to 8 minutes to toast that. We're going to use a new product that I just found this year is sweetened condensed coconut milk, which is very similar to the sweetened condensed milk, except it's using coconut milk, and it worked really nice making this chocolate. The other thing I'm using is vegan chocolate chips, so there's no animal products in this one at all. You can kind of see it melting now. Okay, so we're getting close. You can see the mass of chocolate melting. I've still got a few lumps in there, but it won't take much longer now. I should have gotten the sweetened condensed milk a little bit hotter. So my fault, but we're working through it. Now what you want to do is just keep on. I've learned that when you add in the baking soda, it starts to get a little bit stiffer. So if you don't add baking soda in, at this point it'll be more runny. With the baking soda, it's a little bit more stiff. But you can see that I'm doing okay with my spatula, and that's why I like these spatulas so much, because they're easy on the hand and you can fold without causing too many issues. A smaller spatula just does not do the trick. So this will be warmed up in just a minute. We'll pour it into the pan, press the chocolate chips on the top. Another trick I've learned when I've made this is don't use the parchment sheet on the bottom, but when you're smoothing out the chocolate, you put the parchment sheet on the top and press whatever you're doing, the walnuts, toasted walnuts or pecans, or in this case, chocolate chips, into the mass on the top. So we'll be using that in a second. And then you can put it back in the cooler with that cover on it and let it chill down overnight before you cut it up. Now this recipe makes enough batter for this size pan. If you use half of this size pan, like a 8x8 or a 6x8, you'd use about half of this recipe. Now you can see it getting a little bit stiffer. We got a little bit more melting to do. Be careful when you make a bain-marie like this, because you can easily pull it off your burner. They do make special bain-maries, and I have one at home. I rarely use it, but just that's the thing to think about with boiling water, is you want to be able to know where it is and not create a problem by pulling it off the burner and splashing it all over yourself. We don't want you to get a burn. Another thing about double boiling with chocolate is that you don't want water to get into your chocolate. So you have to be careful. Make sure, they usually say don't let the bottom of the bowl touch the water. And that's mainly because when you get your bottom of the bowl wet, or really soaking wet, it'll easily start spitting out the sides of your bain-marie, or it falls into your container, and it can ruin the chocolate a little bit. Of course, you can still eat it. Chocolates is easy to eat. Okay, you can see how this is thickened up quite a bit. almost crumbly. Still have a few pieces. I'm going to take it off the heat. That'll give a little chocolate crunch when you chew into it. Fold that around and then lay it into the pan. Oops. Now I'm going to put on some gloves and push the fudge mixture down. Now you can kind of see how this is crumbly. If I had waited for the waited to put in the soda, it wouldn't have been as crumbly at this point, but it still works. So you just want to push it into the pan. Then take your parchment paper and smooth out the top. We're almost done now. Whoops. Make sure it's fairly even. And then more chocolate chips on the top. And then the very last is now you could use a spatula to smooth it out. Check your work. Oh, it looks good. Put this back on. Now that's going to go into the cooler. Okay, now we're going to make the vegan chocolate fudge. And, ooh, that came out nice. So this is the sweetened coconut milk. I'm going to use 3 jars of it. They came out very nice. We're going to get that up to temperature like we did the sweetened condensed milk. And then we'll put in these chocolate chips. And the coconut I put into the cooler. So we'll get that out in a second, and that'll get folded into the chocolate mass along with the, again, a little bit of salt and soda. The sweetened coconut milk is now over 100 degrees, so we'll let it go a little bit longer, get out all those lumps. Is it necessary? I don't know. It's I have not made this recipe that many times, but it seems like a good idea. So we're at 120, and we're going to put in our chocolates. right. Now you can see how that's melting a lot quicker than the previous one. I found that this vegan recipe, which I've just experimenting on, it works good, but I felt it needed a little bit of a binder, and that's why I chose to use the toasted coconut. I felt that would be a good binder for it, and it seemed to work out just fine. So we'll take this off the heat now. And we'll fold it until all the chocolate mass melts. Okay, we're getting that melted, and now we want to put in our salt, which is, again, 1/8 teaspoon of salt and 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. And then I'll go get the chilling coconut and put it in here. Working with chocolate is interesting. I'm already noticing this is different from the last time I made it. And that's probably because of the way they make the chocolate chips. It can vary. Okay, I'm going to go get the coconut. Here's our toasted coconut, and in it goes. Now you can always save a little toasted coconut to put on the top, which I think I'll do. I'm going to fold this toasted coconut in here. Again, with this recipe, you can use dried fruit, other vegan chocolate chips to get a chunky-like feeling. You can use the nuts. I prefer, whenever using nuts in these recipes, to do toast your nuts ahead. I think it gives that added flavor. So now I'm going to slam it in here. We'll even it out there a little bit, and then we'll put some toasted coconut on the top. I also did the large flake coconut on the top of the one I made during Christmas. This might work just even better because you're only working with one coconut. But the other one did look nice. Then take your sheet again and put it on the top. Okay, and that's it. That's 2 fudges. You let these cool overnight, and then you'll be able to take off the trays and pop them out of the pans, and then cut them up into bite-sized pieces and put them in a little container and have fun. Thanks for coming and enjoying our Cooking with Miller. Let's see, I don't know what to say. I guess it's been a fun day. We made fudge today, and you'll see that out on the shelf this week after it's cooled over tonight, and I'll cut it up tomorrow morning. So we'll see you again next week.